In a 1950s English hospital ward, there was one man the nurses often watched for before the consultant arrived. He was not the most senior doctor in the hospital, but he was far beyond the brand new house officer. He was the registrar. The registrar was usually a qualified doctor who had already passed through the early hospital stages, such as house physician or house surgeon, and was now training further in a chosen branch of medicine or surgery. In the new NHS hospitals of the 1950s, the medical hierarchy was strict. At the top stood the consultant. Below him came the senior registrar, the senior house officer, and the house officer. Everyone knew their place, and on the ward, that order mattered. The registrar might arrive in a dark suit or white coat, notes under his arm, moving quickly between beds while the nurses prepared the charts, temperatures, dressings, and observations. He could examine patients, review progress, order tests, speak to the house officer, and prepare cases for the consultant's ward round. He was often the link between the daily life of the ward and the final authority of the consultant. For nurses like Patty, the registrar could be helpful, rushed, sharp, respectful, or dismissive, depending on the man. Some listened carefully when a nurse said, "Doctor, I am worried about this patient." Others had to learn the hard way that the ward sister and her nurses knew their patients better than anyone. The registrar's job carried pressure. He was still proving himself. He wanted to impress the consultant, pass examinations, gain experience, and move up the ladder. In a busy 1950s hospital, with rising patient numbers after the creation of the NHS, there was little time for softness. Beds were full, waiting lists were long, and the hospital machine expected everyone to keep moving. But a good registrar knew something important. The ward did not run on doctors alone. It ran on nurses noticing small changes, orderlies moving patients safely, sisters keeping discipline, and junior doctors learning as they went. The best registrar respected the ward team. He asked questions. He listened when the nurse said a patient looked worse than the chart suggested. He understood that medicine was not only about authority, but attention. So when we picture the male registrar of the 1950s, we should not just see a stern young doctor with a clipboard. We should see a man in training, standing between ambition and responsibility, between the consultant's command and the patient's bedside. On the 1950s ward, the registrar was not yet the master of the hospital, but he was learning how power should be used. And the wise ones learned from the nurses. For this video, the historical references shown are the Nuffield Trust, 1948 to 1957, establishing the National Health Service, available at nuffieldtrust.org.uk. This source was used to support the early NHS hospital setting and the medical career structure of the time. The second reference is UK Parliament Hansard, Hospital Registrars, dated the 15th of December 1950, available at parliament.uk. This source helps explain the position of hospital registrars in the early NHS and how they were qualified doctors gaining specialist experience while carrying out important hospital duties. The Nuffield Trust was also used for the early NHS hospital career structure, including consultants, senior registrars, senior house officers, and house officers. These sources helped shape the registrar's story, including Mr. Mason's place on the ward, his relationship to the consultant, and the role he played between junior doctors, nurses, and patients in a 1950s English hospital.